Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great show for you guys today. Got a great guest. Going to bring him on in just a minute. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find them at the aggregators, places like Stitcher, TuneIn, and iTunes. Well, I've been told that you can only get about 10 to 15 or so of the back episodes of the podcast on iTunes. It's a little frustrating, I guess, for some people. But all the episodes, all of them are on the website. They're also on our YouTube channel. That goes back pretty far. Not all the way back, but it goes back pretty far. You can check out our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Love having new subscribers. We're 4 away from 100. Trying to build that sucker up. And you guys have been great over there. Love having you guys over there. What else we got? Our Facebook discussion group over at facebook.com/groups/ordinary marathoners. It's a closed group. Got to add yourself to it. It's really growing lately. Want to thank a lot of you guys in the group. Have been sort of adding your friends and love when people do that, and love the spirit and the energy of the new people that just jump right in with 2 feet and introduce themselves. And man, a lot of great people with a lot of great goals, doing a lot of great things out there. And it's so happy to have you as part of the group. Team Ordinary is right around the corner. That's right. It's going to be our team concept. I'm working on the website behind it. I'm collecting some bios on that. If you're interested in joining the group, obviously reach out to me. We ordered swag, a whole bunch of shirts and hats and good stuff like that. That's going to be rolling out in a couple weeks. We just got to finalize designs and all this good stuff. It's all a lot of fun. But we do have a lot of fun in store for the future, and looking forward to getting that underway. You can find me over at Twitter at OrdMarathoner. That's ORD Marathoner. Follow me there. I will follow you back. And I think that's about it. I think we've got it all covered. Let's just go right into it. We'll introduce our guest. He is a first-time Ironman finisher at Ironman Lake Placid. Finished the race in a lot quicker than I did. Let's just say that. Charlie Duffy, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Well, I do have to apologize to you, Charlie, because we tried to do this a couple days ago. Made it about halfway through. I think we were just kind of talking like old high school football buddies, and we probably could have talked about this stuff for hours and hours. And between some sound issues and trying to cut the thing into 2 parts, we just decided let's start it all over again. And I think that makes the most sense. But so thank you for being patient with me.
No problem.
So this was your first Ironman. And a friend of mine, Paul Malinowski, introduced me to you. I know you. I think you work with his wife or something of that nature. How you guys know each other? Said you were doing your first Ironman. What made you take the plunge and sign up for your first Ironman? What brought you here?
Well, I've got a pretty extensive running background, so I usually try maybe every other year, every few years, I try to get back into it in one way, shape, or form, and set a goal of, maybe be a Boilermaker, or, back in 2009, I did the marathon in Lake Placid. So it was getting around that time again to start setting another goal. The past few years, I'd been kind of focusing on my family. My dad was ill, and so I was traveling back and forth whenever I could to see him. And so he passed last June, and after that, I kind of refocused myself and said, there's this energy now, a big change in life, and what do you do with it, right? It's a different feeling than you get. I'll explain, it's a different feeling than I would get with anything else. You lose a very important family member, especially your dad. So I just always turned to running, and I turned to athletics and sports, and so it was like, okay, I got to do something where it's going to be bigger than anything I've done before, something that I feel may be attainable, but yet going to motivate me to get myself in close to, if not the best shape of my life. And I was watching TV or maybe a live Facebook feed, whatever it may be, in July of last year. I saw the Ironman Lake Placid, and, I just couldn't change the channel. It was one of those things where I got glued to it, and it just light bulb went off. I said, you know what? I think I can do this. And I asked my wife, I said, what do you, at the time, mind you, I'm 45 pounds heavier than I am currently now. And I turned to my wife, I said, what do you think about me trying to do that? She goes, do it. Like literally just, all right. So there it was.
That's great support right there. And you have sort of a personal tie, I think, to Lake Placid from your own past, and your mom had a connection there as well. Was that part of it? I mean, I know you're not too far away from Lake Placid, so it's kind of within your sphere of influence, if you will. Did that make it sort of easier, I guess, to take the plunge or more special?
Well, I've always had, whether it be a dorm room or, an apartment with maybe a spare bedroom or
right behind you, by the way, in your house, right behind you.
Yeah, we got the Lake Placid Olympic poster over there. Got another one over here. There's our whole living room theme is Lake Placid. There's a bunch of stuff in here. But so I've always had this area in the place I live where I could put a few of my own things, right? So I've always had this poster that my mom gave me from 1999 of Lake Placid Ironman. And it's similar to what we got this year, except it's sideways. I put a post on Facebook about it, but, I had it in all these rooms. And then maybe, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, I started looking at it. People would always come in there and say, oh, you did the Ironman? I'd have to say no, And then after 2009, I said, but I did the marathon. But then the marathon was like it wasn't a big of a deal. And at that time, that was the biggest event I had done. So I took it down. I felt like, I didn't earn this. I didn't complete the Ironman. So it's been in storage for, close to 8-9 years, something like that. And so anyway, when I said, I want to do this Lake Placid Ironman, I said, wait a minute, I got that poster. And so as I started training, I put the poster back up. But yeah, my hometown is 50 miles from Lake Placid. My mom volunteered there back in 99. And it's just something that now my wife and I go every single year. Part of our honeymoon was in Lake Placid. And we love that place. It's probably one of our most favorite places on earth to go.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place. I get drawn in every single time I go there. So, having the poster on your wall and having this connection with Lake Placid, and then obviously your father's passing and sort of this, I guess, this light going on and saying you should do something that's sort of bigger than anything you've done before. Was there ever a time in your life that you said to yourself, I got this poster. I love this town. Ironman is something I want to do. Or was it something that just switched, like just one day you just were like, I'm doing this?
No, that's been on my docket for quite some time. I mean, never in a realistic sense. I always looked at it like, that is impossible. I don't understand how anybody could, just so the same reactions we get when we tell people that we're training for it, or that we did one, or anything that you might hear from any of your friends nowadays. I mean, unless you're in this sport, unless you've trained for it and kind of we're able to shorten the goals to the point where you feel like you could actually complete it, which for me took every bit of a year to focus in on. It does seem very impossible. Even now, I mean, we just completed one last month there, and I still can't believe that we did it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where the stats just amaze you. And when you do one, you can't believe that you did it. It's a life-changing event and something that all of us are proud of that have been a part of it.
Yeah, and I got to say, your performance that day, now I forget, but was it a 12-hour handle?
Yeah, I got, so I set the goal around 13 and a half hours once I could finally put a time on it. I ended up finishing just under 13 by 15 seconds. People say about these days, it's whatever it is, 13 to 17, whatever amount of hour days it is for somebody, 8 in some cases. It's like, well, you don't need the seconds don't matter, right? These parts don't matter. You don't need to be that much quicker. But it's funny when all of a sudden it comes down to the seconds. Sometimes that happens.
For both of us, really. But it is incredible. You just, I don't know. I was blown away by your performance. I think that's, it's amazing. So I kind of want to go back now, having this connection with Lake Placid that you mentioned before, and registering for this race and getting through training, and showing up in Lake Placid for the race. What was your sense? What was your after all the training? And I think when we recorded this the first time, we probably talked a lot more about training, but I really liked when you described sort of getting to Lake Placid that week and sort of the feeling, like that magical feeling you get when you start driving through for the first time. take yourself back there and kind of explain to me, your sense of what was going on when you arrived in Lake Placid to accomplish this task that is so gargantuan in nature that, how did you feel when you first got to town?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliments of my performance. And I'll tell you, yours is just as outstanding. And I hope you feel that way.
I do. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. And, when you talk about a venue like Lake Placid or a venue like an Ironman, wherever they may be, if you've gone to that same place before, you know how it feels. You know the temperature, the feel of the town. And all I can say is we've been there maybe 20 times, 25 times. And this weekend was so much different. You come into town and the full focus is on this Ironman. You're 10, 15 miles out of town and you start seeing signs about it, maybe more. I mean, if you're coming the Wilmington way, I'm sure there's a lot more signage there, but I was coming from Malone, my hometown, coming through Saranac Lake, and you just start to see it. And as soon as you park the vehicle, it's just an electric feel. You're walking the streets and just people are more focused to me. They're actually looking at each individual. I think we talked after I checked in, got my wristband, then we went down to Ironman Village, and I got my first time Ironman band, and you see the people double looking at you, and when you got the band on, then they're looking at your face and just kind of maybe your body type, trying to see what it takes kind of thing. And so it's just a different feel. Even my wife, who's there in support of me, she calls herself my Sherpa, but she loved it. We're going to go back there next year and volunteer. She's going to volunteer too. So it's just something where we couldn't believe it. We were really enjoying it. And I didn't want it to end. Even after the event, going to the closing ceremonies, I wish I could have stayed there maybe 2-3 more days.
Yeah, it is a great weekend. And I got to tell you, the way I kind of think about it sometimes is like I get to that town and I feel like, there's like 3,000 people there competing. But for some reason, it feels like it's all about you. You know what I mean? Because you've trained so hard. And for some reason, there's like thousands of people there, but they have a way of making you feel like it's, like you are just a major part of this. And it's true. It should be. And I think, the one thing that people, 3,000 people are competing, but each one of those 3,000 people are bringing someone with their wives, their families, their supporters, their teammates, whatever it may be. And so, where there may be 3,000 people competing, there's like, 15, 20,000 people there supporting the people, even the locals. It's an amazing feeling. And, would you agree that they kind of make you individually, the wristband too? I tell you, when I see someone in our wristband, I think to myself, like, that person doesn't know what they're about to do. And they're probably like nervous as hell, but they're trying not to look nervous as hell. But it's a great feeling seeing the orange wristband. And it's like, it's like welcome to the club and you're about to change your life and you have no idea. It's just a wonderful town. It makes you feel really special.
Yeah, it's kind of like an immediate brother and sisterhood, right? As soon as you wear that wristband, you look around, or maybe you see somebody with a Lake Placid finisher 2015, 2010, whatever it may be for the year, that they were there too.
Yeah, and it's so great too. Is like I always say this about running in general, but I think it certainly applies to triathlon for the most part, is you would think that we're all out there competing and that it's a race. At its heart, it's a race. So you would think that people want to beat each other, but it's not that way at all. It's everybody just welcomes you and like there would be not one person out there wanting Charlie Duffy not to finish. Like it would be every single, it's the support is incredible in this sport. And I don't know. I don't think it exists in any other. What would you think?
Yeah, I mean, I find that in endurance sports in general. I feel the same way about the marathon, but this one was a little bit heightened. Yeah, I mean, you certainly know what it takes and all the time. For some, it's multiple years. Some are lucky enough to get it done in maybe a year early as far as the training goes, but it's still a year of work any way you want to look at it. I didn't take any more than 3 days off in a row ever from last August till the race, and only maybe a handful of times I take 3 days off in a row, and a lot of that was still cross training in between. I'm a ski patroller here in the local mountain, so maybe a full day of snowboarding, and I just felt like the rest was more valuable than getting on the bike that night. But yeah, it's just a full commitment, a lifetime commitment, and I'm certainly not going to stop it anytime soon.
Yeah, you're getting any of that post race like depression or anything? You seem like you're anxious to get back at it.
Well, my wife and I were talking, and she made me feel better saying that we could go back and volunteer next year because I just don't want the pressure on the time. That was such a magical moment. I want to savor that for a little bit. But I am going to sign up for Maryland next year, 2020.
That's a good one.
Which will bring me to a whole other thing. But yeah, that cured it a little bit. I'm committed to Maryland next year. So the journey's still going, still training. I was lucky enough to get a run in, whether that was smart or not, that following Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then I got a bike ride in on the weekend. And then from there, I've been on my same track of, maybe a day off in between, but nothing more than 3 days off in a row.
All right, that's good. You've been on fire. I've been seeing, you're posting the workouts in the group, and it's like, yeah, Charlie's still at it. That's good. That's good. So let's take it back to race day. And in the morning of race day, now I remember my morning, first Ironman race day morning, pretty vividly. It's sort of something that never will, like, it doesn't go away. You can kind of put yourself in that spot. So if you don't mind, indulge me. Wake up, probably 4 a.m. and it's race day and it's time to go and wait on that beach for the gun to go off. What is Charlie Duffy feeling?
Well, I've been fortunate enough over the years. I started competing on a cross country team when I was 12 and modified. Seventh grade. So I've been fortunate enough over the years to have quite a few race days. And so I was just excited to feel that again, the blood flowing and, the nerves, but it's more of an anxious feel, and get up, like you said, 4 a.m. and stretch. You're sitting there stretching in the hotel. I was in the hotel floor stretching and just preparing mentally for the day. Open up the window, look outside and take it all in. And so it was just one of those things where I had over-prepared enough to where I didn't feel like I was rushing around. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and how quick I wanted to get ready. And so we had talked about it quite a bit, my wife and I, so we were both ready to go and walked out the door exactly when we wanted to and took the walk over to the oval.
Yeah, it's always good when you kind of have a plan and it works to perfection, and you didn't forget anything, you're prepared and ready to go. I think that's half the battle. So you also have a little bit of a swimming background, if I remember. Did that help you in terms of feeling ready for the swim? When the gun went off and you're going in the water, is the swim something you're worried about, or is the swim something you're like, yeah, I got this, it's just a matter of time of getting through it? What's your feeling on getting in the water?
Well, back in high school, I looked at it kind of as a negative because I injured my foot in cross country and couldn't run indoor track. So I joined the swim team to stay in shape for outdoor track. And, during that season, I tell people the coach of the team is going to make you a better swimmer. I mean, that's just going to happen. So I was able to really tone in my swimming skills. And I've been, obviously just been a swimmer over the years. And so when I started on the swimming portion, I took to it pretty quickly. It took a little while to build the endurance up. I was swimming all winter long here at the Cortland State Sports Complex. I'm an alumni here, just never left my college town, but so I was training there. They got all the equipment and everything that you would need to train for all 3 disciplines, and I just built up the endurance, built it up. I built up a little bit of speed, and then it got to where the most difficult part for me wasn't the distance, but counting the laps and keeping track of the laps. So, and I still don't know how much I was off over that time. I kept thinking to myself, man, I wonder if I could pay somebody to hold the numbers at the end, I was like, wait, would that ever be handy? But no, I mean, I just enjoyed it. It's a whole different headspace. So what you find when you're training for long distances, and I'm sure you'll agree, is you go places and you think of things that you just never get the opportunity to think of in your everyday life. And so same thing with swimming. It's a different headspace down there. It's nothing but you in the pool, and if you're lucky, the line on the bottom or something that can keep you on a good line there. But it's enjoyable. I like it. I still like the fact that if I'm not feeling well, either my legs are a little sore on the bike, or maybe my feet, shins, maybe it's something with running that's just needs a rest. I can hop in the pool, and none of those things bother me, which I guess is how I got into competitive swimming to begin with. I was injured and I needed to still stay in shape. So you can literally sit in the water with your legs stationary and just just swim.
Yeah. Well, so what about the open water? Did you have any experience at all swimming in a crowd, or was it brand new to you?
Growing up in my hometown, we have a family friends have a camp, and I remember swimming across that lake when I was younger. Maybe it's 3/4 of a mile to a mile, and so that was my only experience swimming in open water for any amount of distance. And so when I was training in the pool, I said, well, it's probably time that I go check out an open water swim. I didn't think it'd be too much different, but no, I never swam in a crowd of any sort, never even shared a lane with anybody. And so we went to Mirror Lake, and I maybe 6 weeks out, got the wetsuit on for the first time and swam a lap a little bit further. I was talking to a guy on the sidewalk and told him what I was looking to do, and he gave me some advice to just go past the buoys quite a ways, gave me a stop point. He goes, that's about 2 miles. So I did that, checked the watch, and it was like 2.04. So I did that lap, felt good, everything felt fine. The wire was easy. I mean, it's right underneath you, so it's really no different. The only thing you got to watch out for is those buoys.
Yeah.
You want to be a little left if you're going clockwise. You want to be a little left of that wire. But that was it. And then I maybe swam a few times in the pool leading up to the race from Lake Placid. And then it was like, you know what? I didn't want to, I decided not to do like a sprint try or something. I just wanted the full out experience of, hey, let's just do this. I didn't want any doubt going in. I didn't want any, well, that was tough, or maybe go to a race where I had some inexperienced triathletes and maybe something bad happened there. I just wanted to go and give it my all and see what happened.
So it sounds like you're pretty comfortable doing like with the background work that you had done. So when you got in the water in Lake Placid and now you're with people, what was your strategy?
Didn't really have one. I wanted to go in and get into my pace early, my training pace.
Yeah.
I remember Mike Rowley saying in the opening ceremony that at the end of the day, it's a day of training that's fully catered. Nice. So I just kept having that in my mind, and I wanted to stay within myself. And so I put myself right in the 120 to 130 bracket.
That's right. We mentioned we were probably standing right next to each other. Didn't even know, because I think we were kind of standing right in the same spot.
Yeah, and I didn't have an exact time, but I figured that would be pretty comfortable. And if anything, I didn't want to be passed as much as I was doing the passing. I felt like that was a more comfortable place to be in that water. So that was it. I was going to just go with the flow and see what happened.
And you got into the wire, man. I'm so jealous of you, because I tried to get a little bit tight this time. I always swim wide, and I was moving towards the wire, and it was too crowded, and I felt like I was expending way too much energy trying to fight people for position. And but you seem to get right to the wire, and you seem to have a little bit of space and get moving. I'm a little jealous, I got to say.
Well, I'll tell you, my uncle John and I had this thing going through my whole training of, if I get to the starting line, he was going to be there at the starting line. So beforehand, I'm standing there on the beach and I'm looking all around, and oh man, there's just so many people around. I said, I'll never be able to find them. And so I spent probably 10 minutes while we were just sitting in that corral, looking all around, he wears certain kinds of hats, like not a cowboy hat, but like a old Western type hat. So I was looking for that, couldn't find it. So all of a sudden, you know how the starting crowd kind of boomeranged, like dogleg just a little bit? Did you?
Yeah.
So we're walking, and all of a sudden it dog legs, and I see this fishing pole, like a commercial fishing pole in the air, and it was like 12 feet long or something. At the end of it was a disc, like a 12-inch disc. I see 1791 in the disc, and I'm going, I looked at my band. I go, I think that's my number, And I looked at my band. It was my number. I look up, and it was my uncle standing there. So we made eye contact there. And from that point forward, I wasn't worried about a thing in the swim. I was like, okay, saw my uncle. Goal one was to make the starting line. So I wasn't worried about it. I just lucked out, like you said. I headed towards that first pyramid buoy. And as I was swimming, I was kind of in my own mind, just kind of getting into my pace. Next thing you know, I'm just looking down, and there's the wire. So I kind of popped up for a second to say, am I where I'm supposed to be here? I didn't expect to see it. And of course, it's just that it's almost like a flock of Canadian geese landing into the water. That's all you hear is all that rustling of water and people swimming. So I just kept going.
Yeah, that's awesome. You had a great swim too. So did you when you got out of the water at the end and head on over to get the wetsuit stripped and run over to transition? Did you know your time? Did you know, like, did you have a goal versus what you did? How did you feel coming out of the water?
Yeah, after the first half of the first lap, I had looked down and I was pacing like a 115, 116, somewhere right around there. And so I felt like everything was going just fine. So I just kept going. The corners of those laps got pretty congested. The front lap and the back right, or I should say, both rear corners, rear left and rear right. So,
Everyone wants to take them tight, So it's like all the people from the outside come in. It's like a whole, it's like gridlock.
So I had a minute to kind of glance at my watch, and so I saw the time on pace. So I just kept going. Came out of the first lap. Didn't know what else to really do except go back in the water, but I saw the water table, so I just grabbed a cup and I'm like, well, I'm not really thirsty, so I threw that away. And then hopped back in the water, just kept swimming. And as I got back to that same spot, I noticed I was still on pace. So that was it. And then I didn't even really look at my watch again. I came in and I went to go get my wetsuit stripped off, and those volunteers know what they're doing. She goes, oh, your watch, And I looked, I stopped my watch real quick, and they got the wetsuit off me, handed me, and I headed over to the first transition. And then I had saved it and moved on. So I didn't even really, I don't remember if I even knew what my time was on the swim. Yeah. Maybe I knew close to, but yeah, I knew I felt good. And it wasn't about the time anyway. So I knew I felt good. I was excited to be heading over to the bike and out of the water. So nothing bad happened there. I was more nervous, let's say 8-9 months out, of somebody kicking or my goggles coming loose. Next thing you know, I'd lose the seal.
Right. And then you got to mess around with the goggles. Yeah, it's
yeah, it didn't happen. So I was like, okay, all systems go.
Yeah, knock on wood. I've never had anything like that happen. I had a friend of mine that lived in Lake Placid for years and would go down and watch the Ironman races back in the years when they had a mass start. Everyone jump in the water at 7 a.m. and you got to finish by midnight. That was the mass start. And it was just a free for all in the water. And he said every year people would come out, broken fingers, broken toes, broken noses, goggles everywhere. And I think that Ironman's done a pretty good job at trying to make it safer for us. And like I said, the 3 years that I've gone in the water, I've never had anything, I've been kicked, I've been elbowed, swam over by people stronger than me. I've, bumped into people. I've yelled curse words. But, compared to what it used to, I don't know if you've ever seen video of the mass start. I think it's way, way, way safer these days. But it's definitely a good feeling getting out of that water in one piece and having nothing happen to you. What would you think? So once you're out of the swim, now you are, it's funny because it's one of the disciplines are done. So you almost have this feeling of, I don't know about you, but I always think mathematically, and I'm like, oh, that's a third of the race. I try to convince myself that a third of the race is done, but fast forward 10 hours and you don't even remember that you swam that day. So what was the mindset coming out of the water, getting on the bike? Was it just, were you trying to just say, all right, that's done, move on? What was in the head?
It may sound crazy, and I hope this continues in my future Ironmans, but I was just so excited to be doing this. I was like, it's happening. This is it right now. I didn't think of, much more than, okay, there's a swim, keep going. I saw my first couple friends in the transition, and they spread themselves out a little bit. So it was like, oh, finally somebody I knew, and then here's another one, and so I'm waving, trying to acknowledge, them being there, and that I saw them, and just keep going down. I saw my sister, heard her. And so I was seeing, family and friends and this and that. So I get over into transition one, and now I'm thinking, okay, I got to make sure that I equip myself with the nutrition I wanted. I had put certain nutrition into my racing shirt. So I had that. I had my bike shorts already on. So when the wetsuit came off, those were on me. So now I'm just concerned with taking care of my feet, making sure I prep them properly. I get my gear on the right way. I think my first transition was 10 or 11 minutes. Had a little trouble even finding my bag because I came in the opposite side of the rack that I thought I was coming into. So I'm at the opposite side trying to look at the stickers and count. No big deal though. Found my bag, got into transition one, got all prepped, got all the stuff I wanted. Some of the things that I had read prior to, I did. I think I told you, like taking a washcloth, maybe this big of a cloth, drenching it in water, putting it in a baggie and freezing it, and then putting it in the transition bag. So by the time you get to it, it's just a nice cold towel. Threw that on my neck. That was great. I was like, that's just as good as they said it was going to be. So did that, and then just kind of got all ready, headed out to the bike, volunteer, thankfully grabbed my bike. I didn't have to mess around with the racks, and off I went. And so I was more concerned then with making sure I mounted the bike after the line. It wasn't as tough to see as what I had heard. So I saw you couldn't miss it. And so I saw the thing, got on the bike, and then I was just excited to be on the bike. And immediately the thought of tires, please don't pop, and 112 miles under my bike.
Yeah, I had a flat the first year. It was miserable. But my first year, you'll get a kick out of this one. I got out of the water, put on my bike helmet, and the clip on my helmet strap fell off. And I couldn't lock the helmet, and it took like 9 minutes. I had bike tech people looking at it. They wound up giving me a new helmet. Thank God. Otherwise, I would have been a DQ like right off the bat. So I wound up doing the whole race with a helmet that was one size too small. Which, these are the things that happen on race day, right? It's like, you have to kind of be prepared for the unexpected. Getting out on that bike now, and like you said with the mountain line, if you've never done a triathlon before, and Ironman was my first too. It's like these little things that kind of cause you a tiny bit of stress because you've never done it before. But then once you actually do it, you're like, that's no big deal. So you get out on that bike, and now you got some of the a good portion of the race behind you, and like you said, you're thinking, I'm doing this. Was the bike course? Now, obviously, you've trained for a year of this, and you've been in Lake Placid before, so you know that there's hills, and I don't know to what degree you were familiar with the course, but what were you thinking when you got on that bike? It's 112 miles ahead of you. Is that like, are you thinking, I got this? Or are you thinking, let's start this challenge and get moving? Like this is going to be a long day. Like what's going through your head at that point?
I felt so good, and there's so much to take in. That's all I was really doing. I was ready for a long bike ride. I was going to handle it like a training ride and just take it all in. I mean, you can't help but absorb in the crowd, especially for those first few miles out there. And then I knew I had a good downhill to come. So I was just taking it in, staying within myself, making sure that I wasn't putting in too much effort. They say to stay patient. I remember seeing one sign over by the old subway. I believe that's where that was. And somebody had a sign that just said, stay patient. And this was first lap. So I did that. I remember reading on your first lap to keep yourself in a gear one easier than you think you should. So I was just trying to make sure I wasn't putting in too much extra effort, I should say, at any given point, especially in that first 56 miles, and just enjoying the ride. That's what it was. It was a fully catered training bike ride, and I had never been 100 miles before. So I wasn't trying to put any of that into my mindset. It was just, let's go, one pedal at a time. So many people out there with you, so They were all doing it. I could do it. Let's go.
So were you at all intimidated? You watch, if you read, obviously you've been on the Ironman Lake Placid Facebook page, and you read people's accounts of the hills that are out there and the difficulty of them. Were you at all intimidated by them, or was like you said, I guess you pretty much answered this question already, but were you just like, all right, bring it on?
And that's just it. I had done a training run with a buddy of mine, and I would suggest if you get a chance to follow him. His name's Chad Taverny, Cycle Jockeys, his YouTube channel. That guy's a climbing machine. We were teammates in high school in the cross country team, and he had taken me for a 80+ mile ride through the Adirondacks maybe 5 or 6 weeks prior to race day. So he was telling me, like, this hill is just as much as what you're going to see in Lake Placid. He knows the Lake Placid area. He rides for Team Placid Planet. So he knew the course I was going on, and he put me on a training ride similar to the elevation I should expect in Lake Placid. So I just believed him. I said, I did those, and this should be just fine. So just making sure I didn't exert too much effort, that I had enough for each hill, and I wanted to experience lap one without any sort of a strenuous type feel. And that's tough to do because it's tough out there. But I think sometimes my mindset just overpowers my body in a way that I just wasn't going to allow myself to not finish this. Now, sometimes you can't help that, right? but it wasn't something I even had in the corner of my mind whatsoever. I was going to get to that finish line no matter what, as like all of us say when we hit that starting line. So luckily my day went very well, and I didn't have to overcome too many obstacles on my way there.
Yeah, you had a perfect day, man. But that's what happens when you train, when you're ready for this. You know, you get on that starting line, you're ready. Sometimes you even underestimate yourself when, you're like, I just want to get this thing done. And then you wind up posting, 12 hours, whatever you did, 12 hours, 59 minutes. That's incredible. But, now we all do brick workouts in our training. We all ride the bike and then get off and start running. But this is a little different when you put the swim together with the bike and the hills, and then you jump off the bike, and now you're staring down. You're not staring down a training run. You're staring down a full marathon. Was there anything? What was going through your mind when you finally, you put that bike, you put the bike down, and it's time to put the sneakers on and get out there and run? Is it? At that point, I would think, you had a lot of time in the bank there to do the marathon. So you at that point, you got to know you got it. But what's going through your mind in terms of how you approach the marathon portion?
Well, so now I'm excited, and I'm heading into my strength. And so I felt like my body was fine. I didn't have any overpowering cramps in my feet. Legs were feeling good. And prior to this whole thing, maybe 8 months, 9 months out again, I did a lot of thinking with this. I was saying, well, if I can feel good and I get to the point where I'm putting my shoes on, I can bring this thing home. So now I'm just thinking I want a sub-4 marathon. Now I'm getting like greedy, So I get off the bike and I prep my feet. My concerns were making sure I prep my feet properly. I get all my gear on. And again, with the towel, and just making sure that I had cooled my body down a little bit and prepared myself for this run. I came out of that gate feeling great. And then reality sets in fairly quickly, 8-9 miles in, and I realized, yep, this is going to go into marathon shuffle mode for me. But I was fortunate enough to even get that far out, and the sub-4 marathon wasn't going to happen. But I came out great, felt good, and also had a good game plan quickly through the aid stations, because it was hot. It was a hot day out there, and there really wasn't much coverage. Right, we're out in the middle of the open there.
No, there's a little bit on River Road, but you're right. It's mostly you're out in the. Of course, when I'm out there, it's dark, so I'm the wrong person to ask. But no, it did get hot out there, and really that's probably you're probably at mile 8 or 9, and I'm probably just getting off the bike, and I had similar, and you talked about prepping your feet now, and you made mention of it twice, which means it was pretty important for you. I've obviously done a few of these, and I've never had issues with the feet, and then that's what wound up happening for me. Was I just got mad blisters because I didn't take care of them, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's like, to hear someone who, has running experience and be like, that was a priority for you. It should have been more of a priority for me as well. I didn't do it. But
I got to do a little better job myself. And I don't even know if it's avoidable. I got some pretty good blisters on the littlest toe on my right foot and the next one over. And I don't know if that's because of the grade of the road, because we're constantly in that right-hand lane. I don't know if the pressure on that right foot did that. A little bit more, yeah. I don't know if taping. I'm sorry?
No, it's a little bit more because you kind of like tilted a little to the right. Is that?
I don't know. Those are the only two toes I had an issue with. And I don't know if taping that would help, because then you think, okay, where does the tape start? Where does it stop? Because the tape's going to bother the next toe over if you don't just tape every single one. So I don't know. Maybe it's just par for the course. They were healed up by Wednesday or Thursday anyway. So it was a little bit of a stinging issue. Now, it quickly becomes less of a concern because there's some other things you got to worry about, especially with that body temperature. I was throwing ice in every pocket and crevice I had going on. So I remember putting ice on my hand and just holding it on my head and making sure I could cool myself there. You might say, well, I wish I could get off the bike sooner, but there's something to be said with being able to run into the evening, because once it cooled down and once the sun went down, I was able to get a little bit of a better pace going. So that's the thing, is that when you're out there right in that peak of the sunshine and the heat, it's tough. The guys that win that and the women that win this, their times 8, 9, 10 hours. Well, it's not. I think they're all sub 10 hours. But think about that. They come off and they're running marathons just as fast, or if not faster, than most of us could run if we were just doing the marathon. So we got to keep that in our mind too. Is that we're very impressed with our time. We're glad, but we can get better. There's people. If you put in a little more time, you find a little bit more time in your day here and there. We can get better. We can all get better, and that's something to strive for too. Not to get complacent.
Yeah, and that's a good segue for me because we actually have Grace Lindell coming on the podcast next week. Who I think she was third place finisher, 19 years old. And I don't know if you were looking down at all during any of your race, but all over the sidewalks it said, go Grace, good luck Grace. Like I think they bought all the chalk in Lake Placid to support their their person there. But she's actually going to be in studio. We're going to be doing an interview with her over the weekend, or actually early next week. So we'll get some answers about that and how in the world, I don't know how people run sub-3 marathons out there after doing all that. It's an incredible athletic feat. It's amazing. But yeah, you're right. And we all can get better at it. And that's one of the things that I like about the sport is that, I mentioned before how, everyone's competing, that it's a race, but a lot of times it's, you go out there and like the next time you go out to Maryland, you know what? It's not Charlie versus everybody else. It's Charlie versus old Charlie. You know what I mean? You got something to improve upon. And I think that's one of the things that separates the sport. Is that in your mindset at all as you approach Maryland? Is like, all right, I got to beat my time from Lake Placid or improve upon it, or?
Not at all. I'm going to handle these in such a different way. I mean, the Lake Placid was very much for myself, something I want to do for myself. I'm not sure if you were able to see any of my Facebook stories or not, but our twins just turned 2. They were born 79 days premature, spent 71 days in the NICU, the Krause NICU over in Syracuse. And, during their stay, we never missed a day. We saw them every single day. We stayed in the Ronald McDonald House. So this time around, come 2020, I want to launch a fundraising campaign to raise money for both the Ronald McDonald House charities and the NICU Little Fighters Club. So they're doing an expansion to be able to house more kids there. So that's something I'm excited about for 2020. I want to do more of a, racing for a reason type campaign. And I'll certainly be more on that. But that's what I'm excited for now. That's my motivation. Not so much the time or anything like that. I certainly want to finish one again, but more or less just keep this journey going. I'm excited, hoping to raise $10 a mile. So 1,406 miles or $6 to be split between the two organizations, $703 a piece. I think I can do that, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to do that this time, but the thing is, one, I wasn't so sure completely that I could finish it, and then I wasn't really sure that I could handle the additional stress of running and creating this fundraiser on top of training and preparing for my first Ironman. So now that I got Lake Placid in the books, we're going to focus this going forward, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
That's great, Charlie. And I got to tell you, we some of the groups out there are a little bit like don't post your personal stuff or whatever. But when you get that all set and ready, you go ahead and post all you want on the. We got some pretty generous people over there, and I'm sure they'll help take care of you over on our Facebook discussion group. Definitely keep us in the loop with regards to fundraising and all that good stuff. You got a great story there. I love when people have a personal connection to a cause that they're trying to raise money for. We do a lot here for charity as well, and it's a great group. So definitely keep us in the loop on that. Don't be shy. I want to kind of wrap up with this though, is because we've talked about the whole race except pretty much the most important part. You're approaching the end, right? You get up that Mirror Lake Drive that I know so well, and you got to be feeling really good about yourself. Your family's there. You're hearing the crowd in the distance. You're hearing Mike Riley, spout out the names that are ahead of you, and you know the moment's coming. So now you're coming down that hill, Mirror Lake Drive, ready to enter the speed skating oval, and give us the moment.
Well, I had a group of family friends that were on that strip, so I knew I was going to see them once, if not twice, as I came back around. And so that gave me a little extra boost. One of my best friends was there with his wife. And so as I turned the corner to the big hill and started heading up towards the oval, I could see them in the distance just after that PVC shower, that one of those PVC pipe showers.
Yes.
So I saw that, and that gave me a little boost. looking back on my splits is where I started to pick it up too. So that last mile or mile and a half, 2 miles was a pretty good stride for me. I had a good pace going, and just was taking it all in again. Trying to hold the emotions back to the least the oval, because it was just like, wow, this is really happening. This all came together so great. And I just was enjoying every single step. And it has nice little pitch down. So it was a little easier to get a little stride out for the first time in maybe 18 miles. So yeah, it was a very enjoyable up and back turnaround. And then heading into the oval, I remember Mike asking us to make sure each person gets their moment. So I'm kind of looking around, see if anybody's behind me. I saw somebody in front of me, so I'm giving them a little bit of space, and I could just hear the crowd just amp up here and there. So you'd hear a name being announced, then boom, the crowd would get excited. So I was excited for my moment, and sure enough, turn the corner, couldn't help but get emotional coming down that carpet. And looking back on my finisher tape, I didn't even remember what I was doing, but man, hands up in the air, I was excited. It was a great time.
That's awesome, man. And the moment is so special. And you know what it is? It's the culmination of the whole year. It's so much work that you put into it, and it's and that's the payoff right there. So that's what makes it all worthwhile. So so when you get through the finish line, the family's there waiting. When you get through, after you probably had the bad pizza and the bad French fries. Well, the French fries weren't that bad. But the pizza was terrible. Then again, the pizza I had probably was cooked at noon, and
jeez,
it was like, yeah, old. But what was waiting for you when you got out of that little zone there, and you met your wife and everybody? Was it? It's just a moment of pride. It's got to be.
Yeah, so the volunteers were great. They grabbed me right away and kind of braced me and made sure that I wasn't going to fall under my own weight. Luckily, in this one, I felt pretty good, so I was able to keep myself pretty steady and work myself through that finish line area. They handed me an ice cold water, which was awesome. I think I maybe poured a little bit on myself just to cool down, and then was able to slowly drink that. And then I walked over to the end, or maybe the bike transition area, where the spectators can then meet you again. And I was lucky enough, especially being close to my hometown, I had a good group of maybe 14 or 15 people. So saw all them, made sure they had a good day. At that point, you're then concerned. I was a little bit concerned. I was just making sure, you almost feel selfish, because like you said, this whole day is for you, So, I'm just like, hey, thankful that I had this crew there, hoping that they had a good time. I realized that they were out there for 13, 14, 15, 17 hours and more themselves. So, that was the other thing. And then just kind of, it's taking it all in again. I had random people I didn't know come over and congratulate me and just wanted to hang around our crowd. There's a little bit of energy going on there. So everybody just feeds off each other. And we took some pictures, and next thing you know, I'm like, where's that massage tent?
Nice. So overall, you've exceeded your expectations. You've had a great day. It's all over. Now you're signed up for Maryland. So were you signed up for Maryland beforehand, or you're not signed up probably yet, because it's right. You got to just wait, but you'll get in. It's not.
The race this year is the 26th, I want to say. Ours was the 28th of July. So this one's the 26th of September. So I'll have to sign up just after that. Yeah. And next year's is September 19th, 2020. So yeah, I still need to sign up there. Got to get my housing figured out. I've reached out to a few Airbnb. Yeah, that's what it's called. So I'm talking to a couple people there, just not trying to get too far ahead of the game. But yeah, we'll get all the logistics squared away, and then I'll start to focus on that course and what that means. I do like, when I look at these different venues, I like the different swim courses. You see the ones where they're coming through like a channel?
Or you jump off the boat?
Well, some of these locations, these Ironman locations, are all different. Like the swims are different. Like our Mirror Lake has got its own thing, but Maryland's certainly a different swim. And then there's an Ironman just happened where they were literally swimming down a channel.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I don't think
maybe I've seen it in the past. I remember. I think I think I didn't even know it was an Ironman race, though. So I don't know, but we'll have to look into that and see if we could figure it out which one it was. But yeah, it's like they have so many different experiences: jumping off the boat, jumping off the pier, jumping off. It's just incredible. I will tell you this about Maryland: you get a little spoiled in Mirror Lake, and you can see pretty good, probably about, I don't know, 5 to 10 feet in front of you. It's pretty clear. You can see a swimmer to the left or the right. In Maryland, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So just be excited for that. And I hope you don't get a jellyfish here, but we don't need to talk about that. They call them sea nettles. I think it's supposed to be I think that's supposed to be a little bit more comforting than jellyfish, but they sting the same.
Yeah, we've got some, well, I don't want to call it gloomy water, but we've got some certainly water around here that's not as clear as Mirror Lake. So my wife and I have already talked about it. She's going to get the kayak going. I'll have her stay a little bit away from me, and I'll see how well I can track in some of the waters here. So, yeah, I mean, that's the key, is that every single location is going to have its challenges. Everything we do is going to have a different challenge, not just in these Ironman, but in life in general. And the key is just keep moving forward, keep positive, surround yourself with positive people. That's something that has been so helpful for me. I can't tell you, all the people throughout the year, either at work or part of my social media crew. And thankfully, Miranda was able to connect me with you guys, because I certainly don't want to post all of my workouts on my regular Facebook, bore people with that. But our Ordinary Marathoners crew seems to be very receptive to all of it and support each other. So I'm glad to have that venue, because sometimes some of these workouts are so difficult, whether it be a 5-mile run or a 100-mile bike, that you're just excited to get back and post to the crew, right?
Yeah. Well, it's true.
Maybe it was pouring out and you're like, you know what, the only reason why I'm going to finish this entire distance is that I can go back and take a picture of myself, dripping wet with the Ordinary Marathoners and say that I did that day.
That's awesome. And you know what, too, is like you're kind of like regular real life friends. They don't really understand when you run 5 miles and you've had a bad run. It's like they don't get that. Like, oh, I had a crappy 5-mile run. It's like, you ran 5 miles and you're telling me about your problems. No, I mean, I don't think I ever ran 5 miles until I started training for a marathon. So it's good to have some people that are like-minded, I think, and receptive to kind of, the emotions of of the whole journey. There's that word again, journey. But,
Well, that's it too. I mean, when I go back and I say, I never took off more than 3 days in a row, my life, as others are, it's extremely busy. So that's quite a feat for me to do. And so there's a lot of days where it'd be so much easier to just go to sleep or just hang out on the couch, just spend some time doing anything else other than working out. So there's a lot of workouts that are a grind. There's a lot of workouts where the body's just not feeling it. We have to do it anyway. So having a little bit of feedback on that, not that we need it. I mean, years ago when Facebook and all that wasn't around, we certainly didn't have that. But now that we do, it's just something to certainly take advantage of, and share as much as you can, and be there for other people as well.
Yeah, you just got to embrace the culture. It's just kind of it's a nice, it's funny, like you see a lot of reporting about the negatives of social media. I know I see it firsthand and you'll see it when your kids get older. My daughter can't rip herself away from the iPad. But I think that when it comes to the running community, especially, and the support that everyone gets, not that it's, like you said, not that it's completely necessary, but it's certainly, it's one of the positives of social media, I think, is that, we can get together and we can find people that, may not be our best friends in real life. We don't call them every day or talk to them every day, but, certainly understand what we're going through and are able to kind of offer advice or, just even a couple nice comments here and there. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I commend you for starting something like that. I mean, that takes a lot to do. You wonder. I'm sure you went through all the ideas of, geez, will I have anybody that joins this? Or, will it gain any traction? And it looks to me like it certainly has, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we've got people that I've seen that are doing Mont Tremblant, right? And then we've got a couple doing marathon or Maryland this year.
Yeah.
Excited to track them, see how that all goes. I see we've got a Marine Corps marathon. Someone's doing the Marine Corps marathon.
Got a lot. I'm doing it, but we got a lot of people going to DC for that one too. It's an incredible group. And you know what too is I think one of the things that we all appreciate, everyone in the group, and I'm sure you do as well, is even though we have, like you said, all the athletes doing Ironman and doing long distance running and marathons, we also completely embrace those who are just starting. We try to make it so, I mean, we don't want to intimidate people by saying, oh, it's just a marathoner community, but those people that are just rolling off the couch and trying to take the first few steps, like a lot of people in the group have gone through that. And so it's very welcoming. It's a very welcoming community, whether it be, someone like yourself doing your first Ironman or someone just trying to, figure out how to run a mile, again, that they haven't done it in a long, long time, or maybe they're trying to do a couch to 5K. It's just all very welcoming. And, you know what? I kind of started the group on a whim. A friend of mine is like, hey, he's a marketing guy. He's like, all right, you should do a Facebook group because he thought it would bring more people to podcasts. And it turned out to be one of the best sort of side stories, I guess, of the podcast and how it's developed over the years. So, thank you for that. Thank you for joining the group. You've been a great member. Thank you for your story here today. And appreciate you spending some time with us. And especially thanks for your patience after recording half of this the other day and then starting new.
No, I'm thankful. Like I say, I'm glad to be a part of that group. Maybe do a couple other things this year. I know the Ordinary Marathon event where I got to find out a little bit more about it, but we cover so many miles get covered in a certain amount of time.
Yeah. So the Ordinary Marathon is it's a thing we do in the spring. It's a 10-day event. It's a virtual run. So you basically run however much you want. Now, a lot of people use it. A lot of people try to define it as a marathon since it's in the title and say, all right, I got 10 days. I'm going to run 26.2 miles in those 10 days. And I love that people do that. And we've had some people like really work hard to achieve that goal, like people that never thought they could do it, and to see them do it and accomplish it. A full marathon in one day is not for everybody. So if to take it in piecemeal, I think in piecemeal, some people really embrace it and love it. It's not a requirement to run a full marathon. Some people run 100. We've had, I think last year, some guy ran 140 miles in the 10 days. So it's one of those things where, it raises money for charity. It brings the running community together, and we'd be happy to have you as part of the crew next year.
I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to just seeing what happens throughout the whole year again. And hey, we're all continuing our journey, like you mentioned as well. And I'm excited to be able to say that, and just glad that we were able to spend a little time together here today as well.
Excellent. We got to make sure we meet up next year in Lake Placid because we're going up there too. I'm not racing it. I might be volunteering. I might be cheering some people on. I'm not really sure exactly how I'm going to do it, but we're gonna wait till next year to make those decisions. Thanks again for coming on the show, Charlie. Anything else in parting or?
Oh, I'm sure there'll be plenty, but we'll call it a day for now.
All right, man. Thanks so much, Charlie Duffy. First time Ironman, and a great day for Charlie on July 28th. I'm sure a day he'll never forget. With that being said, we're going to cut the podcast here at the moment, and we'll be back next week. We'll be doing two podcasts a week. We're doing a 2 podcast a week schedule moving forward, with one on the weekend that we're going to try to have a guest. Like Charlie, like I said, the next guest will be Grace Lindell. We'll be having her next week. I got a bunch of guests lined up, and it's just like, I don't know. I think after this Ironman, met a lot of people, and a lot of people, have this person. We got a great lineup coming after you. I don't know if anyone's going to beat Charlie though. Charlie had a great story. With that being said, always remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.
Remember to like our video and subscribe to our channel.